The police are saying, nah, don't worry about it. But of course they'd want to say that. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, please do subscribe. And if you're old here, hello again. My name is KlLLER and I cover true crime and missing person cases on my channel. I've got a very interesting and concerning case for you today. It's happening right now as we speak. I've got to give a shout out to our longtime listener, John, for mentioning this to me, because once I read his comment, I couldn't stop thinking about this and I knew we had to go there on my channel. Let's get into it. Long story short, in just an 11-week period, 6 women between the ages of 22 and 32 have been found dead in remote or wooded areas within a 100-mile radius in and around Portland, Oregon. Naturally, there's been a hell of a lot of theories running around about this, that the cases are connected and that they're connected because of a serial killer, an active serial killer. Police have actually addressed these rumors and said, no, we have no reason to suspect that. There's no evidence of that. But it does make you think. Because of course police don't want you thinking that there's an active serial killer. That could cause absolute chaos. People could start getting suspicious of completely innocent people, and sometimes people take that suspicion to the next level and act on it, which is obviously insane, but that could cause a whole bunch of other issues. So yeah, I think it's a smart move for police to say that there most likely isn't an active serial killer. I just have to say though, 1 or 2 would be a coincidence. 6? That's a lot. But let's dive into these cases and learn a bit more. Starting with 22-year-old Kristen Smith. She was reported missing in late December 2022 and was last seen around Mall 205 in southeast Portland. And Kristen was very creative. She was a bit of a girly girl, loved doing makeup, hair, nails. She taught her sister how to do all those things. She loved wearing wigs and she was a very talented artist. She loved drawing. She found her comfort being surrounded by animals and she considered them family. Her family, of course, looked everywhere for her, in homeless shelters, hospitals, contacted anyone they could think of. But for 2 whole months, they had no clue where she was, or even if she was still alive. They actually believed that she had been trafficked and they were losing hope that they would ever see her again. And unfortunately, they were right to worry, because on the 19th of February, remains were found on the border of Portland and Happy Valley in the Pleasant Valley neighborhood. Now, these remains weren't identified until the 25th of May, which is a long time. Not sure why it took so long. But I can tell you now, this was the body of Kristen Smith. So how does a 22-year-old just die and be found in the middle of nowhere? It doesn't make sense, does it? And her cause of death has not been disclosed at this time. Her mother is convinced she was murdered, but she admits it probably won't be easy to prove that. She says, I know she didn't just die out there. Somebody did something. And they are fighting for closure and justice in this case. So moving on to the next case. On the 8th of April, 2023, in rural Clark County, Washington, the body of another woman was found. Either in or near a barn. I've seen both being reported. And this was near 8004 South 5th Street, Ridgefield. And her name was Joanna Speaks. She was 32 years old and a mother of 3. She had a 12-year-old boy, 13-year-old boy, and a 7-year-old girl. Joanna had been homeless at the time of her death and she was a recovering addict. But I have to say this, don't let that impact your judgment on this, because for some reason, once the words addiction or homeless are mentioned, people just switch off and think, doesn't matter. No. Within the last 3 weeks of her life, Joanna had been looking for housing and guidance to get clean and really be a part of her children's life. She had such good intentions. According to her loved ones, she lit up the room and had an obnoxious giggle. And apparently her kids still have that same laugh and they look just like her, which is giving her family some comfort. The difference with Joanna's case, this is the only one of these 6 cases where they have released the cause of death. And what the cause of death was in this case was blunt force trauma to the head and neck. So yes, this was a homicide. Police also believe that her body had been moved to this barn. They don't think she was actually killed there. And her stepsister has said that this was a violent attack and that person is walking around. Like, when you think about it like that, that person woke up today just like the rest of us. Probably had their morning coffee just like the rest of us. It's chilling. But there are no suspects as of yet. And I'm sure they have more evidence than we know about. She was transported. There could very well have been some kind of forensic evidence in and around her, like fibers, a hair, anything. The sheriff's office is seeking info from anyone aware of any suspicious people or vehicles at or near the area, and that's about it. Her family are open to the idea that these 6 cases are connected. They say at this point there's no proof that they're not. So, and you know, they're right. Maybe there's no proof that they are connected, but there's no proof that they're not either. So until we have answers on that, anything goes. So that leads us into our next case of 24-year-old Charity Lynn Perry, whose body was found in Culver near Ainsworth State Park on the 24th of April. Her death has been labelled as suspicious. So far we have 1 undisclosed, 1 homicide, and 1 suspicious. In life, Charity was a kind, good person. She loved her little brother more than anything, and her family want her to be remembered for her kindness and to raise awareness for the mental health struggles that she suffered with, which were severe, centering around schizophrenia. Question for you as a true crime content consumer: what has to be the case for police to mark a death as suspicious rather than a homicide? Because in my experience, I've seen it be extremely suspicious. There was a case in Ireland a few years back where, this is actually mental, but a torso was found in a suitcase in a river and they marked that as suspicious. I mean, yeah, it's pretty suspicious. Like, what else could that possibly be other than murder? But maybe that's just Irish police. I don't know. But Charity's mother says that police have shared enough details to make her uncomfortable. And she says that it's too early to say if there is a serial killer, but there's also too much going on to say for sure that there isn't, which I think is a pretty fair statement. I will say that Charity was apparently frequently seen in downtown Portland near the Washington Center and a former open-air fentanyl market, which is an area that had often been cleared by cops after 11 people overdosed in one night there, 3 of whom died. So what was she actually doing there? So this leads us to our next case, which is actually a Jane Doe. This Jane Doe was also found on the 24th of April, the same day that Charity was found. And this woman was Native American and possibly Native Alaskan. And she's estimated to be somewhere between 24 and 40 years old. To be honest, that's a pretty big age range, but it does keep her within the same demographic as our other cases here. And she was found in a tent on the side of the road, so it does sound like she was also homeless, but police have said that there's no indication of foul play. If she was homeless, which it seems like she was, there are a lot of ways to die. So this could be a bit less likely of a case to fall within the serial killer theory. However, if she'd been homeless and out there on her own, she also could have been quite an easy target for a passing serial killer looking out for another victim. But the thing is, whoever she was, she had family or people who knew her. Like, just somewhere, whether near or far, we don't know. So what happened to this woman? I do have a quick little description for you, obviously because we don't have an identity on her. This woman was 5 foot. She was 135 pounds with black hair and brown eyes. She was found wearing a green long sleeve shirt, black and white zip up jacket, jeans, rings and bracelets, and white Adidas sliders. She also had 2 large scars on her lower left leg and a musical note tattoo with a V, as well as a Buddha tattoo with the words "never forgotten." So we don't have much other information about the Jane Doe, unfortunately. So let's move into our next victim, 31-year-old Bridget Ramsey Webster. Allegedly, Bridget was also homeless and using drugs, and her body was found in northwest Polk County along Harmony Road near Mill Creek, and this was on the 30th of April. She would apparently frequent the Portland metro area, and what's interesting here, I'm curious as to what you think about this, Bridget and Joanna Speaks were good friends in primary school, and they had recently reconnected. Question for you. Is that a coincidence, or does that suggest a link? It is a little weird that their bodies were then found only 3 weeks apart in such suspicious circumstances. Which, on that topic, Bridget's death was also labelled suspicious. Whatever that really means. Then we have our final woman, 22-year-old Ashley Reel. She was last seen on the 27th of March in Portland, leaving a fast food restaurant on the 12,000 block of Southeast Division Street. She was Hispanic and just 4'11" and 85 pounds, and she had a piercing in her nose, okay? Her body was found on the 7th of May by a man who was in the area to do some fishing, and she was found in Clackamas County on the 29,000 block of Southeast Judd Road in Eagle Creek area. Her death was also labelled suspicious, and that's all we really know there. So into the investigation, obviously police are looking into if these 6 untimely deaths are connected. It'd be pretty incompetent if they didn't, but they stand firm in the argument that it's not an active serial killer. I just think, of course, they have to say that. Like, is that awful of me? Maybe. I don't know, it's just how it seems to me. Because until they can provide cold hard evidence that they're not connected, the possibility is there. How do you find that evidence like that? I don't know, but it is their job to look into it, I guess. To play devil's advocate though, another problem with linking these cases is it can stop investigators looking at each individual case with a fine-tooth comb, because they're looking for similarities or links versus looking for more evidence. But it all has to be covered. Something to note is that 3 of the 6 women frequented the same areas in the months leading up to their deaths. That was Joanna, Charity and Bridget. Those areas being around Southeast 82nd Avenue and an area near Clackamas Town Centre. I'm going to say something here. I actually don't think all of these cases are connected. My gut is telling me that the Jane Doe isn't connected to the others. She could have died for multiple reasons if she had been living in that tent at the side of the road. It's just my thoughts on it. But with that said, it would be surprising if none of the cases were connected. Particularly because some of these women had been frequenting the same areas. 2 of them had recently reconnected after being good friends in school. You know, there's a lot of things that kind of bring these together. I don't know how small Oregon is, how small Portland is, how many people know each other, but I would have thought not many people would know each other. It's a city. So I was wondering then, well, have there been any other women under 40, let's say, who have gone missing recently in this area? And I looked it up on the Oregon government website, and I was absolutely floored with what I found. There were 19 pages of missing women under the age of 40 in Oregon since the 1st of December 2022. Okay, a few things. First of all, I don't know how up to date this website is, because the very first name I picked out of that bunch, I looked her up and the girl had been found safe, yet her name was still on that website. So there's that. But then the next case I looked at was a missing Native American girl, potentially Native Alaskan, and she hadn't been found, which got me thinking of our Jane Doe. Side note, this Native American, potentially Native Alaskan girl was like 15, 16 years old, so that's younger than our Jane Doe, but who's to say there aren't more of them? Unfortunately, I just didn't have time to go through all of the cases individually, but if you're watching this and you have time to look into a few, I'll leave the link in the description to that website, and who knows, like maybe you'll come up with something. Because what if there's more than just 6 women? These 6 women that have been found are only the ones that have been found. What about other missing women that haven't been found yet? What if they're linked? Because the most recent woman to be found was found just over a month ago. That's not that long in the grand scheme of things. Now, I was also curious as to whether any of these women were in relationships. Yeah, because in each of these cases, nothing is mentioned of any boyfriends, husbands, partners, or even estranged spouses. So I'd be interested to see if police are looking into that as well. I'm sure they are. I hope they are. But obviously they're being very tight-lipped about everything. So also another question to ask is, were any of these girls talking to anyone on social media? Were there any of them that had planned to meet up with strangers online? You know, was there anything going on in their lives that is common among them all? I'd be really interested to know. And to be honest, I understand the frustration from authorities with this, with people thinking that maybe it's an active serial killer, because when people think there's a serial killer, all hell breaks loose. When the police just need to focus on doing their job and looking into this stuff, and then they're getting all these kinds of tips from people who are kind of running away with themselves. So, you know, I don't know. But until there's more information, this potential of an active serial killer in Portland will just be hanging over us. And without scaring anyone, if you're from there, do be careful. But to be honest, like, true crime happens everywhere. So also be careful if you're from literally anywhere else. It sucks that I have to say that, but the reality of it is, I will never run out of cases to cover on this channel, because true crime happens all the time, all over the world. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found this video interesting, then go ahead and drop a like on it. And more than ever before, I am dying to hear your thoughts on this case in the comments. So please let me know your thoughts, let me know your insights. I'd love to have a bit of back and forth about this. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel as well, and follow us on TikTok at KlLLER_YT, and join the Patreon to support the channel as well, so we can do more of these videos and get the word out about more of these cases. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.